Hi, everyone, and welcome to Open Mic. I'm your host, Ramzi Chiri, and my co host, Tanis Coughlin. We welcome you. Actually, this would be the last episode of the year, 2022. It was an interesting year. Uh, it was a very interesting year. A lot of things
Absolutely.
happened, a lot of movements, as you can see her facial expressions. A lot of movements. Things were shifting around the globe, shifting within us, within our consciousness. So, yeah, it's interesting. Let's see 2023 what's going to bring to us.
hmm We had lots of energy changes, but we've also had a lot of downloads, lots of great, beautiful, high vibe energy coming in.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, when we have that coming in, we have the dense stuff that comes up to be seen and heard and acknowledged.
let go.
And we tend to not want to look at it. And so it comes out in like anger and frustration. And so, yeah. So this holiday, please be kind to each other.
Be kind to yourself
That too.
also. That's the key. Um, that's the key. Sometimes we don't realize we're not kind to ourselves, and we try to be kind to others, but it comes out in a really, really negative way because we hold the pain and not, I don't want to say acknowledging it, but actually dealing with it.
hmm
So it vibrates externally. So for today, yeah, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. No,
I
I'm
was,
just
I was
agreeing. Yes, I'm agreeing.
For today's episode, actually, we weren't sure what we are going to talk about. And Tanis picked cards, a lot of cards. It's like, those pick a card, any card, those pick.
Good. Do I have them handy still? Yes, I do. I believe. Oh, no, I must have shoveled. They're not at the top anymore.
Oh,
Oh, well. I have one of them here. One of them is forgiveness.
forgiveness. Oh, this is what we started the topic with.
hmm
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. There was forgiveness, and there was courage to make changes. And what was the other one?
Guilt.
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 Yeah, I like to forget on that. I like to forget that one. That's not a.
That is a,
I
it's
don't
a
want to. I
perfect
don't want to dwell in that one. So
it's a perfect holiday topic.
it
Guilt.
is. It is.
But before we start, actually,
There it
we
is.
want to wish everybody happy holidays. There's a lot of holidays that are coming up this week. There are at least three major that I know about, and it seems there are a lot of others that I'm not aware of. So whatever you're celebrating, guilt and forgiveness, yeah,
And the courage to deal with that.
and the courage to deal with it. So whatever you're celebrating, enjoy it. Enjoy it with peace, love, and harmony. Um, and I know usually during the holidays, it's a lot of food, a lot of oh, sweets. I'm the chocolate lover. It's like, oh, I should be talking, but there's a lot of indulgence during this time. Enjoy it. It's fine. It's fun. Don't feel guilty about doing anything at this time. You know, there's always time afterwards to
Alter how you decide to feed your body.
yes, exactly,
hmm
exactly. So guilt is the holidays, I think, a top pick during family gathering.
hmm
So
Expectation of others creates guilt.
yes,
hmm
and I thought maybe we can give you the top 10 guilt tips to but that won't be on the show.
Top 10 tips. Let's see. First
No,
one, I'm going to choose forgiveness because that came in the guns.
but guilt doesn't come, sometimes it comes from a good place. And I know if you come from a Middle Eastern family, it is one of the tools that are used by parents usually. And I'm sure other nationalities they do the same thing. But I'm
A
talking
lot,
about
a lot
myself.
of them, I think.
So it is used to drive the children to do what the parents wants them to do, and this is something that we all deal with. And if we have not dealt with that issue at a certain point in time in our life, what we tend to do is pass it on to the next generation. And once we pass it on, then the next generation have to deal with it, or it continues until somebody stands up and says, okay, let's stop here. Let's change the way we do things. Let's deal with our issues and communicate properly with each other rather than to guilt someone into doing what we want them to do, or to push them, or to guilt them. No, guilt them is the right
Mm.
term. So I guess you
But
have this.
it's a bit of a manipulation technique, right?
It is actually, yes. That's a good way of describing it.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulation. Um,
I mean, we can also feel guilt about things that we think we perceive we've done. We've made the wrong choice, or we've hurt somebody, or, I mean, there's guilt for those reasons as well. And that stuff can be brought up again at the holiday times, because you're family and all of that stuff. So there's different types of guilt, I think, right? There's the self-imposed guilt
mhm.
and the externally projected guilt.
But for both of them, actually, they do come out more often during the holidays because the family get together a lot during this time, and they do the celebration. So it starts to rise out of nowhere. And for the self-inflicted one, well, actually, for both of them, communication is the key to resolve it.
Mhm.
Communication is the key. What happened, I might feel guilty about a word or something that I've said, or an act that I've done in the past. To resolve that is to come, and actually, by the way, maybe the other person doesn't even remember it.
I've had
Yeah,
that happen.
yeah,
People apologize to me for something, and I'm like, why are you apologizing?
yeah.
It's good, because sometimes we do things and we think it's wrong, but
Hmm.
it's not wrong according to the other person's expectations or whatever, which that can happen. We all hold different things of value at different value ratings, right?
Yeah,
So, like, I might really, really value this. So when I realize that I stepped on it, I go to apologize to that person because I really value this, but they don't value it at all. It's like down here, and they're like, "Oh, I don't care," you know? Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So when you communicate, then you realize that, well, you remove the burden on off your shoulders, and then you come to a realization. One, the other person maybe didn't even get it in the same way that you thought they received it.
Mhm.
And maybe to the other person, it was an eye opening on something they've done or they're doing, and it said, oh, yeah, maybe I should change myself.
Well, and it's
Or
usually
you,
for one or both of you in a situation like that.
it's what, pardon?
A lesson, usually,
LS. Yeah. Yes,
for
absolutely.
one or both of you, depending on the situation.
Yeah. And the third one would be, yeah, you did something wrong. And then you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
See, communication is, we were talking about this a couple of days ago, I can't remember, but communication is an art.
Mhm.
It's an art. It's an art of passing on a message from one person to another. Um, when we were kids, we used to play. It's called. Well, we used to. I think it's that's the name. Is téléphone cassé, which is
Yeah,
a broken phone. Uh, that's what we called it back home. I don't know what's
we
called.
call it telephone, but yeah,
Oh, okay, it's the same
same
thing.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you pass on a message, it breaks down along the way. Um, and the breakdown happens, one, hearing issue, you know You're saying something way too fast. The other person doesn't pick it up. Two, it is perceived in a way different than you intended it to go out, and multiple other factors that might change the meaning or the direction of the message. So the art of communicating is making sure that your message is um, conveyed properly. And then afterwards, so Tanis, what did you think about my message? Was it good?
Yes, it was conveyed well. We have a shared understanding.
So we have a shared understanding. So that is the back and forth and the feedback that you get from the other person, that they got what you actually said. And most of the issues with any two people, if it's at work, at home, or anywhere else, is because of communication. Other than that, there's nothing else.
Communication styles can be a challenge.
Yes. But
And not just about the message, because, there's tone of voice that comes into it. There's facial expression, there's body language, because it's all part of it, right? So it's not even just the words that you say. It's how you say them, what you're doing when you say them. All of those things go together for that communication piece to be heard or received and
yes,
understood, right?
yeah, I was going to say the emotions because of that. So how are you? Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Tone, right? You'd be like,
You
oh,
know,
I'm good. What's wrong with you? What's up with you?
so it is really good to make sure that you communicate properly. And what I noticed with myself, I'm like sometimes, oh my God, I want to get this message out. Tone of the voice is very important. Absolutely, absolutely. So
It's funny. I had YouTube on earlier. I was watching something and an ad came on for Grammarly, and it was
oh,
addressing that exact thing. How do you soften this message? Here, I'm an ad for Grammarly, but they gave you options on how to soften the message, and it's in words, because isn't that the hardest way to convey tone? Is in written word, like in a
yeah.
text or an email, or it's more difficult because people interpret tone that might not be intended when it's written.
Reading, it depends on your state of mind, not the writer's state of mind.
That's right.
And that's a trap. That's a trap that we all fall into. Look what they're saying. Look,
Yeah.
but there's nothing. It's just
They're
words.
just saying thank you. Yeah, but it has a sarcastic tone, but it just says thank you.
So finding yourself in a situation like that, it is good to communicate it back to the other person. Apologies are required sometimes. It makes the message more authentic. Okay,
As
I'm
long as
sorry.
the apology is authentic.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sorry. No,
Oh yeah, sorry. That's not so authentic.
no, no. So it has to come from the heart. It comes with the tonality that comes out with, is one of apologetic, and also if it's coming from the heart, the vibration comes out differently.
Yeah.
See, we're all a bunch of vibrations. The whole universe is a vibration. Everything goes up and down like this everywhere. Even like
All day, every day.
everything is a vibration. So that tonality, that vibration changes the perception of the other person. So you have to make sure that your tonality, your vibration is one of love and compassion. If you put that in everywhere, it doesn't matter how it is twisted, because it lands properly at the end.
Yeah.
It lands properly. So we moved from guilt to communication. I like
So
that.
it's all part of that, right? And then we communicate and ask for forgiveness with an apology. So that's the other word, forgiveness. Right? And it means forgiveness for self as well. So even if you're feeling guilty because of something you did, then you should really forgive yourself. And
Yes.
sometimes that is, until I found the Ho'oponopono, I was like, how do you do that exactly? This forgiveness thing, it's elusive. How do you do that? I can just say I forgive them, but somehow I didn't feel that, until I found the Ho'oponopono.
Yeah. I
So,
like that too. So aggressive communication is not healthy. Absolutely.
yes, indeed.
It comes out usually like bows hitting you or stabbing you.
Yeah. I'm sure that those of you that are watching, like if you're empaths and somebody like says something like poignant to you, I don't know about you, but I like feel it, like it
Yeah.
almost physically hits me. And I'm like, okay. I mean, this is where tubing helps, but when you're not expecting it,
Yes.
you can literally feel it physically when somebody projects anger and frustration, or they try to project guilt.
Yes.
They feel different than anger and frustration. It feels different, but it's still a projection, and you can feel it physically depending on your own state. And of course, how you act or react with that, it depends on where you're at, not where they're coming from, right? So whether it triggers me that somebody's thrown this stuff at me or not, that's up to me.
Yeah. And
It,
actually,
actually, it's up to your history and how you deal with things. I shouldn't say it's up to you, because there are times when you react because you haven't dealt with history, but then it's your choice whether to delve into that a little bit and do the healing work so that it doesn't happen the next time, right?
that's a good point. These are the trigger points that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
This is what makes family event, yes, a bit tough to handle.
At
And that's
times. Mm-hmm.
because we hold, not only through our lifetime, but generationally, we hold soft spots,
Mm-hmm.
emotions that haven't been dealt with between family members over a long period of time. Even if you're a second generation, you will still carry it from the past.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know what was happening because it's part of the psyche.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the way I the way I see it, okay, and I do a lot of reading. So when I do readings, I start to see things. So it's you're sitting in a bubble. All that is your bubble. All your thoughts, all your emotions, all your laughter, all your sadness, and all of it sits there. The words that you iterate sits there. So if you're talking negative about yourself, I'm not good enough, or you're talking negative about somebody else, I can't believe they made this mistake. All that sits within you. So if you're more on a positive, that bubble vibrates on a positive. If you're more on the negative, that bubble vibrates on the negative. And that affects you physically and mentally.
Yeah. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and vibrationally.
All of it.
Yeah.
Now, there's also that adds to it is the family dynamic.
Yeah.
That's the generational stuff that comes and sit in your own psyche. And it just sits there. It's lying around all around you.
Sometimes it sits with your neighbors and your elders and your family,
Yes, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
they project it.
So we need to clear that bubble. That bubble needs to be cleared. And these are our soft spots basically.
Yeah. Yeah, our triggers, right?
Yeah, these are our triggers. So once you start to clear and clean and accept and forgive, And when I did a 2 year forgiving and forgiveness, and Tanis was there, and she gave me a whole Ho'oponopono, which I didn't know. Well, I've heard about it before, but I've never used it. It's like something Japanese, but it's not Japanese.
It's not. It's Hawaiian. It's 4 simple phrases, folks. Okay. I use them in this order. Other people use them in different orders. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Oh, you froze. All right. She froze. I guess Ho'oponopono is not supposed to be out. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. And there's one more. I can't remember what it is, but you have to also forgive yourself. Let me see what happened to Tanis. So let's continue with the forgiveness. So I did this forgiveness for 2 years, and the way it works. Okay, I've heard a lot about what do you call it? I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, yes, that's how it is. Thank you. And we would add to this, I forgive you, and I forgive myself also, because you have to forgive yourself. Oh, her power just went out. Oh, so sorry. So you have to forgive yourself in the process. So what I used to do is an emotion will come out, an incident will happen, a memory will come out about an incident that happened. So I take myself out of that incident and look from the top. And I put myself in both shoes, myself and the other person that this incident took place. And I feel the compassion towards the other person. I forgive them for their reaction. I forgive myself for the reaction. And then I say, I love you, I forgive you. And this just instantly dissolves. It instantly goes away. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like, really, this technique helps a lot. It helped me a lot. And it doesn't mean that you go, 4 or 5 days and you're doing it and everything is fine and you're on top of the world and that's it. Nothing is coming up and you think that you healed. No. There are things that sits in your psyche that you don't use. So when these things starts to get triggered, what happens with that is that they rise to the surface, and then you deal with that issue. If they're not rising to the surface and they're sitting in the background, of course they're going to affect you, but you don't know what you're dealing with or what you have to deal with. So it sits in the back, and you don't have to do anything with it until it surfaces. So this type of healing, you can call it the shadow work. I've heard a lot of people call it the shadow work. Basically, the shadow moves you. It controls your behavior or your reaction towards certain things, and that needs to be dealt with. So it comes out, you deal with it, then the emotion that is trapped, it goes away. Just one sec. I think Tanis can't make it. My power just one seems to be staying out. LOL. So sorry. Okay, no worries. See, so I think Tanis is not going to be joining us after all. So if her power comes in, then she'll log on. Where was I? Oh, I forgot. I lost my track of mind. Anyways, so as they rise, we deal with them and then they disappear. And slowly, you start to feel lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Then that thinking process that takes over most of your time starts to fade because there's nothing to think about. There's nothing to argue about with yourself because those issues have been dealt with. They're not there anymore. Unless you want to find something new to deal with, but that will, when that comes out, then you deal with that portion of it. So slowly over 2 years, I used the Ho'oponopono, and it helped tremendously. Now, another part of guilt is that it is used as like Tanis was saying, it's manipulation, but it's a tool to get you to do certain things. Now, the person that is using the guilt as a tool is unconscious about what they're doing or the effect of the action that they're taking. Once you come to the realization that they're not aware of their action, then you have a compassion towards them, and you could see the manipulative behavior rising, and you can put an end to it immediately by saying, "Oh, just 1 second." And one of the greatest things was I don't know if I'm sure most of us had to deal with it. Eat all your food because there are people hungry in Africa, and we used to feel guilty and eat it as children. I became fat, and the people in Africa were still hungry. So when I came to that realization, I said, but that's not going to feed them. And that trip ended. No more guilt on towards food, because now it's dealt with. It's dealt with, and boundaries were put in place. So there's no argument between the two people, because both of them came to a realization that this does not work. So that's on a guilt the guilt trip. Forgiveness, like I said, this is a key one. Forgiveness starts with the self, and then it just projected outward. If you do not forgive yourself, you hold tremendous pain in your psyche, and that pain drives you unconsciously to do things to release the pain inside. You start doing things without knowing what you're doing. And if somebody comes and points it out to you, and no, it doesn't work, because they're pointing out to you, your egoistic self immediately kicks in and tries to protect itself. And by protecting itself, it pulls backwards. It's like, no. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. But the reality is, it is all of us. It is all of us. That's what happened with us, is that we drive that pain outward without realizing it. It's like a pressure cooker when it starts to whistle. So it just goes out. It burns as it's going out. So it's good to start by healing ourselves, and then it projects the healing, it projects outward. Then there is no reaction to the other person or family member or friends when they come during the holidays and get together, because we have dealt with the pain that we were holding from a previous time. Guilt and forgiveness are very important. Not the guilt is not important. Understanding guilt and identifying it is very important. Then you go into the forgiveness, so that it wipes out all the pain that came from the guilt process. I can't remember what was the other card that she picked. Anyways, we'll continue talking about. If anybody has a question regarding those topics, forgiveness, guilt, and holidays, please feel free to type it in the chat. We can discuss it directly rather than me. We had a thing prepared, but then unfortunately Tanis lost power, and she's not with us right now. She's not coming. So, indulging during the holidays, we tend to be hard on ourselves for a long period of time. We deprive ourselves from food. We deprive ourselves from certain certain things, and then when the holiday comes in, we kind of like let loose, enjoy, over enjoy, and that's including me, over enjoy, and then right after January 1st, New Year resolution, what are we gonna do? Go to the gym, start a new diet, and that usually lasts for a couple of weeks until we forget about it or we get bored of doing it, and then we continue our lives like as we did before, normal, no change, and then we start to complain about our health and our physical body. Deprivation is the cause for us to overindulge. What happened if you, okay, we eat, we drink, we smoke. They're all part of an addiction if we overdo certain things. It's an addiction to cover a pain. We eat our emotions. That's very common, which is true. We do eat our emotions because what happens is that we have pain and we're trying to mask that pain. We don't want to deal with it. So we start eating to cover it. Whatever the pain is, we're trying to cover it by eating nonstop. So instead of going into a diet afterwards, let us just deal with the pain, remove the culprit, and then we stop eating. There's no need for anything else. A diet is not required. An emotional an emotional cleanse would do. Because if you're whole, you don't need to cover anything. You don't need to you'll eat just to keep yourself satisfied. Of course, it has to be perfect. It has to be well presented. It has to be colorful. It has to be satisfying to the eyes, to the nose, to the whatever, all the senses, and you'll enjoy it. But it doesn't have to be a whole chocolate cake. A piece of a piece of cake would do. It doesn't have to be a chocolate bar. That would be me. A small piece of it would do because it's just to satisfy that craving, or you enjoy a piece of chocolate. Just have it. But you've dealt with your emotions, so you don't need to continue eating. So you control yourself. So all these indulgence and overindulgence that we do, and then the deprivation that we do, then we overindulge afterwards, all of them have an underlying emotional issue that we're not dealing with. So once we deal with that, we get to the holidays, instead of jumping on the food for a full day, we will have a discussions with other people and just eat a meal like normal and then continue this interaction with others. So it is important to look at ourselves and our behavior, examine ourselves so that we are able to pinpoint the triggers that we have, to pinpoint what drives us to do certain things. Because once we do all of that, once we have a list, once we catalog all of it, we can easily deal with it. And we can use Ho'oponopono to forgive and know that we love ourselves. Because from there, the path is really bright. There's nothing left to do other than walk it and enjoy life. That's one part of it. What else is there? Let me pull a card for us, and then we'll talk about the card. I had bought these cards from England. They're fairy cards. I thought, hey, I'm in the land of fairies and dragons. Let's see what the cards say for. All right. It says justice. I'm not sure. This is for the. Why is it backwards, anyways? It is justice. Justice is. Let me see what it means. Take the time to review the details carefully. You will win in the end. Fair and objective decision. So basically, your decisions are made by reviewing the detail, but the detail are also details about yourself. Once we understand ourselves, then we can make proper decisions. And those decisions will not be based on emotional triggers, but they'll be based on more rational and clear mind. I'm going to pick another card to see what else does it say. Because once you clear your mind, you become a magician. And a magician is you can do anything, take charge of your life. You can manifest what you need to be successful. Abusive work environment. Okay, this is a very touchy subject. What I would say about that, multiple things. One, there's, of course, a misunderstanding between the team members. The managers and HR has to get involved in issues like that. Also, if the communication is not broken, or if the communication was relayed properly, then the only way to deal with that is that the abusive people have to be removed from the team, or you would have to walk out of it. But let me see what card will come out for the abusive work environment. All right. One is a 3 of autumn. It's a bit dark, this thing. Follow your passion when it comes to your career. Be the best at what you do. Being compensated for your creative talent. Basically, focus on your work and not the people around. Now, if the people around are a cause of negative work environment, then, like I said, you can continue driving an outcome with your work without having to deal with these people. But if you have to deal with them and they are abusive, then something has to be done. If not, then maybe it is time for you to focus on your job and find something else. Because if you focus on your job and everything is working, then the second card is, sorry again, 10 of Summer, which says an emotionally fulfilling life with family or friends, raising children wisely, people you can trust. What it means is that if you're focused on your work and you're not involved in confrontation with other colleagues, then your life becomes easy, and the transition between work and family will be easier. And that, what do you call it? You won't have to bring in your negative work environment into your home. So it ends there. It is a good 2 cards basically telling you that focus on your work, and if the environment is not that great, maybe it is time to move. See, another card says, do the right thing for the right reason. Don't jump ship just because it doesn't feel good where you are. Maybe you have to deal with this issue within your work and then it will be resolved. Otherwise, like I said, maybe it is time to leave. Work environment is kind of very touchy, because what happens is that we sit with these people, and we interact with them more time than we interact with our families. We're there most of the day, and we work with them very, very closely, so these things do arise. I put in my paperwork to go today. I don't understand what that means. To go somewhere else, basically, to transfer? Okay. I'll wait for a message. Okay, like I'm saying, I'm leaving in 6 months. Yes, that's perfect. That is a perfect way of doing it. You're focusing on your work, and you're focusing on your work, and that will drive your career forward. And if it's not working where you are, the movement will be the best option for you. And this way, you don't have to sit in a toxic environment most of the time. Because sometimes the environment is toxic. No matter how saint you are, it might not work with the people. If they're really, really toxic, it might not work. I had to deal with that many years ago. And at the end, I was about to leave, and that person left. It is very good messages, and it's very unsafe. Yeah, yes, absolutely. I fully agree. So after a while, I did bring it up to HR. I brought it up to my boss, and at the end, the person left. And when he left, the whole department started to fall apart, and all the negative people that associated with him, they left, because there was no place for them to play anymore or do those negative things, because there's no one to interact with them. See, if somebody is want to do something bad, they need a reaction from you. If you're not reacting, then they stop doing it. And because the head of the department is not there anymore, all of them just left afterwards. Yeah. So yeah, we all have to deal at one point in time with toxic people at work, and sometimes the best option is to walk out. All right. I'm gonna see another card for the evening. Princess of Autumn. Studious, responsible, cheerful, mischievous. Happy news about your career, promotion, or scholarship. Well thought out plans that go perfectly, needing a little push to get going. I guess I'm still in the same space in regarding to your question, and I got you another one that says move on. Awesome. Well, so yes, that's awesome. To go back to the holidays, we have given a lot of tricks to move on. Love it. Yeah. We have given up a lot of tricks. One of them is to cold water. When you hold it with your hand and chases your emotion, it grounds you. It grounds you. It moves you away from what is happening, and you can give cold water to the other person too, because the temperature and the water itself changes the mood of the person. So instead of confrontation, this one helps to calm things. Second, we can always move away from an issue, especially with families, by ending a conversation and jumping into another one with someone else. So this way we don't have to deal, we don't have to confront other people because it's not required. So we there's a lot of ways of having to deal with that. Two, you can ground yourself while you're talking to someone, and the grounding technique is very simple. It, well, if you can close your eyes, this is fine. If you can't close your eyes, just imagine that there are roots coming from your feet all the way down to the center of the earth, and they're wrapping around the center of the earth and pulling you down, and you're just standing still, and allow the energies to flow through you all the way down into the earth, and that actually grounds you. Even while you're talking, you can still imagine that. I'm saying it, and I can see the image rising in my head. There's the grounding. There's also grounding before and after events like this by taking a salt bath, um, by doing the technique. There's a tubing technique that Tanis had mentioned last time. You tube yourself. Basically, you cover yourself in an energetic field, and that protects you from negative energies and any psychic attacks. So it's good to do that also. There's also herbal essences that Gary was on the event last week, not last week, the week before, on the show, and he gave us tips on which herbal essences to use in order to calm us down and help us during these. I don't want to say difficult times because they're not difficult times. During happy times where triggers rise for the fun of it. Well, on that note, if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to end this episode. This is the last one of 2022. I thank you all for a wonderful year, for being with us. Our audience has been growing, and I really appreciate that. If you have any topics that you'd like us to talk about, please send it to us. You can find me on ramseychiti.net. I have my services over there. I do Reiki healing, energy healing, mediumship, psychic mediumship, and I do specialize in money blocks. I'm a director of finance by trade, so I understand where these emotional blockages regarding money comes from. So you can call me. You can set up a 15-minute call. It's free, and we can see what we can do together. Also, next year, planning this year, we did get two guests on our shows, Nadine and Marianne Savino. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. I feel so peaceful watching you. Thank you for your service. I will definitely reach out. Thank you. That's awesome. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So next year we're getting more guests on our show. We're getting, which I can't mention the names now, but once they're confirmed, you'll see them on. I know someone. I have worked with her for the past 2 years. We've been classmates. We were doing Awakening of the Mind, which is the psychic medium classes in Europe, and she's more than happy to join us. And she has her own business of what do you call it, meditation and other technique that helps people. And I shouldn't talk anymore. I will get her in. I think she's ready to come, and I have another person in Mexico, and maybe more people will be able to interview next year to give our audience more tips and ways to evolve from where we are today to where we want to be tomorrow. And on that note, I wish you all happy holidays and happy New Year. and we'll see you all in 2023 in January. All the best. Thank you. Thank you all for your time, and see you next year. Have a great day.